Beautiful. We're recording. Susan, welcome to the podcast.
I'm thrilled to be here with you today, Guy.
I was literally looking on your website this morning as well, Susan, and it said something about 42 book awards. Is that correct? I thought that
Yes.
was incredible.
Yeah, I've written 20 books, 36 foreign editions, and I have won 42 book awards. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Where does the passion for book writing come from? That's quite an achievement.
I never expected to be a writer. I was always an artist as a child, and I thought I would be an artist or a commercial artist or even maybe a designer or dress designer or something like that. I had no intention of writing, and then I ended up very late in my life beginning to write. I only started writing in 1990.
Wow. Okay. I ask a question on the show to everyone, and that is when starting a podcast. If you were having an intimate dinner with someone, a dinner party, and you sat next to a stranger and they asked you what you did for a living, how would you answer that?
Well, I would say that I was an author, you know, and a spiritual teacher.
Yeah, perfect. And do you get much of a response when spiritual teacher comes out?
Uh, well, I wouldn't just say that to anyone. It would have to be a certain type of dinner party where was more spiritual people were at the party. If it was just a complete total stranger out of nowhere, I would just stop at author.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Because researching you this week, Susan, I was looking at the vast array of topics and things you cover, and you go very deep in some areas. And I'm always curious for somebody like yourself, where did your journey start with this work? Did you grow up with a spiritual background? Had you always had an interest in this kind of work? What happened for you, Susan?
Nothing like that. I was a hippie. It was the 1960s, and I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I was a flower child at that time. That's the kind of interest I had was an interest in the spiritual revolution that changed the world. But I certainly didn't grow up in that kind of environment at all. I grew up in a very conservative environment. My father was a surgeon. So, yeah, it was the hippie lifestyle that really brought me into the seeking, spiritual seeking. We were all seeking nirvana back then. It wasn't just all about sex,
Okay.
drugs, and rock and roll.
And what happened? Did you find Nirvana? Did you go down a completely different path? Did it meet your expectations, I guess, of what you were looking for?
Yeah, okay. So, at that time, our gurus were Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert, who later became Ram Dass. And they told us that we need to turn on, tune in, and drop out. So that's what we were trying to do to reach nirvana that way. They said that we could get it through LSD. That didn't work out very well for me, that's for sure. I actually ended up having a psychotic episode from taking LSD. But
Wow.
amazingly, I continued to try it and other psychedelics because I was seeking, so desperately seeking for nirvana. And I was also reading a lot of like Buddhist scriptures, and I was reading Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and I was reading Alan Watts books like The Way of Zen. And in his books, he said that you need to find a meditation guide. Whoever would have heard of a meditation guide in the mid 20th century? No such thing. So I asked a friend, how do I find this meditation guide? He said, have you ever tried to meditate on your own? So I said, okay, well, why not? I'll give it a shot. So I laid on my bed. That's how clueless I was, Guy. I didn't even know that you're supposed to sit up when you meditate. I lay on my bed and sort of prayed for or asked for a meditation. And immediately I was propelled into this ecstatic state. I could feel a cord or rush of energy rushing from the tips of my toes all the way up to the top of my head. And I felt like I was plugged into a cosmic electric socket, but in a most ecstatic
Wow.
way. And I figured, oh, well, I guess this is meditation. I didn't know any better. Little did I know that I had not only had my first meditation experience, but also Kundalini awakening all at the same time. And you said that you had had a Kundalini awakening as well, Guy.
Mm. Yeah, so I can certainly relate to that experience, and and so on my own journey, I'd kind of been leaning in towards that, so I was aware there was deeper aspects. It wasn't like it was just a bolt out of the blue, but even still, nothing could really prepare me for having an experience like that. And then I guess the question I had in my own journey was then, well, what do I do with that? And
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what
Well,
did
for
you do with
me,
that
I
once
was
you had
just,
an experience like
yeah,
that?
for me, it was just confirmation that yes, meditation is possible. Meditation is a real thing, and I want to learn how to do it. I hadn't taken any drugs when I had that experience, by the way. It was completely no drugs whatsoever in my system. But a friend took me to the Transcendental Meditation Center, and this was after I had begged him, how do I, how do I find a meditation guide? And he took me to the center, and I saw a picture of the guru on the wall, who was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who ended up becoming my mentor. As soon as I saw his photo in the meditation center, I immediately knew this is where I will learn real meditation. And I ended up writing a book, actually, Maharishi and Me Seeking Enlightenment with the Beatles Guru. That's my memoir about my experience with him.
Incredible. So he was the guru to the Beatles as well. So when you see the
He
famous
was,
photographs and things, and
yeah,
amazing. What compelled you? Did you just then jump on an airplane and fly to India? Is that what
pretty
happened?
much.
Yeah.
I tried right away. I started applying to go to their teacher training courses, which were held in Rishikesh, India. And so I tried and I tried and I tried, fourth time's the charm. Finally, they allowed me to go. They kept rejecting me because I was too young. They said, you can't go until you've graduated college and you're 24 years old or something. So but then a few years after I was trying and trying, Maharishi eventually allowed for the younger students to go. So when I was 22 when I went there, or I became
Wa-
22 while I was there in Rishikesh.
Wow, incredible. And what having, because obviously I've never worked under a guru or been with a guru at that capacity. What did an experience like that teach you over time?
I certainly learned how to meditate, that's for sure. I had a lot of experience with meditation. And I also ended up being on his personal staff for 6 years. So
Wow.
being on his staff was an amazing experience of that kind of intimate relationship with him, of working for him uh, on a daily basis and being part of his inner circle, so to speak. So that was incredibly intense, emotional roller coaster, day in, day out, extremely difficult. It was a lesson learning about, well, I call it open ego surgery. It is traditional in India for a guru to pretty much destroy the ego of his disciples so that God may enter. I know that does that would sound terrible to a Westerner. They think, oh, well, that's just abuse. But it's traditional. He's a very traditional Indian guru, and now the millions of people, actually, he trained 40,000 teachers who taught 6 million people transcendental meditation during his lifetime. He achieved all of that. Those
Wow.
people who meditate twice a day, they don't have any experience of guru disciple relationship or anything remotely similar to that. They're just meditating, twice a day. But when you are in his inner circle, you find out that he is an extremely traditional Hindu Orthodox guru.
Incredible.
Typical. Mhm.
I'm just trying to think how I can frame this question because I'm always curious around this work because when you go and do something like that, and you did it for a long time, how do we then bring that into the world in our daily life and
Yeah.
live from these principles? Because I can't help get the feeling, here in Australia with people, we can use this kind of work to run away from our problems as opposed to work through them. And I'm just interested of how you integrate and what that life looks like now for you after all that kind of experiences.
Well, that was a very long time ago. That I left the ashram was 1989. Um, and actually leaving Europe, where I was on his international staff, that was 1976. So it was a really long time ago. I've had plenty of time to be out in the world. However, when I first left the inner circle in 1976, it was devastating and horrific to try to integrate back into the world. It was an extremely challenging experience, very difficult, and but eventually I was able to find some certain methods and another meditation method and something that I teach now in my books, which is not transcendental meditation. And these methods and techniques that I learned really helped me to bring spirituality into the physical realm, into the physical world. And with the ashram life, it was, it was really way out of the world. I mean,
Mm.
completely devoid of the physical plane, basically.
Yeah.
But with the methods that I've been using and teaching, that has integrated spirituality into everyday life, even with prosperity. Prosperity. My latest book, Prosperity Meditations. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyday practices to create an abundant life.
which I'd love to dive into in a moment as well, for sure. And so, if you were to distill the principles of spirituality then and living by them for you, what does that look like these days?
For me, it's staying in the center of being with the divine presence throughout all activity, not just when you're, in samadhi with eyes closed, but really living in the world, but not being of the world. Really
Right.
living the truth of being moment by moment, day by day, as much as possible, and to stay centered, to not be distracted by all the negative energies around you, how to overcome negative energies, how to lift yourself out of that without running to a cave. I mean, you can still live in the world and experience the truth of your being.
The I gotta ask you as well before we dive into your book, Susan, is that you're living in an RV, and you
Yes.
and then when I asked you, you said you were kind of like, I'm not sure where I am right now. Let me think about that. Which I thought, wow, that's that's true freedom right there. What inspired to live like that?
Well, at first, when I started living in an RV, which was basically I've lived in an RV, a trailer, or a van since 1989. And when I started it, it was because I wanted to travel around the country and teach. So it was a way for me to travel around, go to a lot of places, not have to stay in hotel rooms, travel and teach, travel and go to various conferences, expos, whatever throughout the country. So it was really a matter of practicality, I think, back then when I first started doing it. But I sort of liked it, and so I just continued doing it even when I wasn't running around um, so much, traveling to all
Okay.
different places.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, no, there's it definitely sounds freedom to that when I think about that and what you're doing. It's fantastic. So with your book Prosperity Meditations that you've just written recently, I'm curious to know, why did you decide to write a book on prosperity and including money? Because quite often you don't hear about these conversations in, uh, I guess, the spiritual talk or
Right.
realms that we move in.
You know, probably the vast majority of my books were written because my publisher asked me to write the books. They gave me the topic and I wrote the books. This happened to be one of them. But I'm so glad that I did write the book Prosperity Meditations, because then what I could do was show people that, in fact, meditation and integration and wholeness and oneness, that's where true prosperity is. Prosperity is the experience of happiness, experience of fullness, experience of wholeness, your experience of being replete. And that is what prosperity consciousness is. And that is a way to live an abundant life, not just money, but also family, health, love, relationships, home, uh, all areas of life,
Mhm.
abundance in all areas of life.
But money is such a critical part of our life, or at least the perceived Western thinking anyway, because we require it to some capacity to allow us to live the life that we want. But yet
Yes, of course.
we have so many beliefs and conditions around it and thoughts. And why do you think that is? And what do you think
Well,
how we should be seeing it?
unfortunately, we have been brainwashed to believe that money is evil, money is the root of all evil. It's harder for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a wealthy person to reach the kingdom of God. All of these ideas that we've been brainwashed to believe, they just aren't true. And spiritual people believe that wealthy people cannot be spiritual, and that, of course, spiritual people must be poor. And if you are spiritual and you're poor, then you're better, you're superior to these horrible rich people. And so, there's a lot of this kind of ideas that are completely erroneous that we have about money. And the reality is that money goes where it's welcomed and it stays where it's well treated. So if you welcome money into your life instead of pushing it away, like most spiritual people do, they hate money, they're pushing it away, then you'll never be prosperous, monetarily prosperous, if you push it away. So it's important in my book, Prosperity Meditations, I have many, many different methods, including guided meditation, affirmation, prayer, mantras, and also activities that you can do to draw abundance into your life on all levels. And for example, one of the money mantras, you might say, is I love money and money loves me. It stays with me always. I love money and money loves me. The idea of welcoming wealth is a way to draw wealth into your life. I promise you, if you push it away, you're not going to have it.
Absolutely, but we're also then scared to part with it, and we kind of hold on
Oh,
to what we have.
yeah. Well, there's something called the law of circulation. The law of circulation is that if you circulate assets, money, wealth, it comes back, it comes around. So it's a kind of a cycle, circulation of money, law of
Yeah.
circulation.
Do you where would one start then? If let's say somebody now listening to this is has challenges with money. They look at they want to have to work on themselves, their body, because normally quite often I've found in the health industry for a long time, we the last thing we do is treat ourselves well. honestly. And we get caught up in the stress, paying the bills, doing the job, and then when it comes to, well, why don't you start looking at your health and looking at, oh, it's expensive. I can't afford that yet. I don't want to do that yet. Nobody understands my position. We get caught up in all these beliefs and stories. How do we then begin to break that cycle initially? Like, where would you start with someone if that was the case?
Yeah, you have to start somewhere.
Mm.
If you want to change, you've got to start somewhere. So that's the reason why affirmations are very, very powerful for changing our beliefs, because our beliefs are creating our reality. Uh, it is done unto you as you believe, as Jesus said. And as Buddha said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. So we're creating our own destiny moment by moment, day by day, through every thought, every word, and every deed. We are writing our own script of our own life. We are 100% responsible for creating the circumstances that we are in. And that's the good news, because that means we can change our circumstances through changing our thoughts, words, and deeds. Now, it's not that easy to change the random thoughts that are flowing through our minds, but it's very easy to begin to notice and change what's coming out of our mouth. Jesus once said, "We are not defiled by what we put into our mouth. We are defiled by what comes out of our mouth."
Mm.
So we are creating our destiny not only through thoughts, but also words and deeds. Buddha said, he said, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. And then he goes on to say, if a person speaks or acts with a pure thought, then happiness follows him or her. If a person speaks or acts with an impure thought, then unhappiness follows him or her. So it's not just thoughts, it's words, very, very important, especially when we use the words I am. If you're going to say the words I am, you better say something after that, something that you want to own, not something that you don't want to own. So if you're saying, I am unhappy, I am sad, I am poor, I am overweight, I am miserable. If you invoke the mighty I am presence by saying the words I am, then you want to say, I am light, I am love, I am powerful, I am happy, I am the perfect size and weight, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am strong, I am in control. When we say these power phrases, we say these power statements, then we live a powerful life. Then we consciously taking command over our destiny. So I say, if you want to start somewhere, start with affirmation. Start with this affirmation, for example. I am in control. I am the only authority in my life. I am divinely protected by the light of my being. I close off my aura and body of light to the lower astral levels of mind, and I open to the spiritual world. Thank you, God, and so it is. If you say that affirmation every day, your life will change
Wow.
very quickly.
Does there, with an affirmation like that, which when you say it, it's powerful. I'm sitting here going, wow, you really mean that and feel it. It would be, I guess, challenging for someone to say that and believe it at first, especially if all they know is poverty or challenges with that.
Mhm.
So is it through the repetition that we then start to really own the power of our word?
Right. A repetition is a way to overcome the unconscious beliefs that are really creating our destiny. It's not our conscious mind that creates our destiny, it's our unconscious mind. It is done unto you as you believe means it is done unto you as your subconscious mind believes. So yeah, that's one thing. uh, Another thing is to speak. When you speak an affirmation, say it with power, say it with authority, say it with confidence, say it with conviction, and say it as though your higher self is speaking through you. Not your ego self saying the affirmation, but your higher self is saying it through you. Just pretend, you know, it's not complicated. Just pretend.
And I've got to ask the question, Susan, and just for people listening to this, just to get clarity, how would you describe the higher self?
Yeah. So our higher self is our beingness without all the trappings of who we think we are. There's who we really are, and there's who we think we are. So, who we think we are is this body, which lives X number of years with all its frailties, this mind, this ego, this family, this bank account, this history, this profession, all the things by which we identify ourselves. That's who we think we are. But who we really are is beyond all of these things. Who we really are is an unlimited being filled with light, filled with joy, filled with freedom, filled with happiness and wholeness beyond these relative states of duality that we live in. That's who we really are.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I can certainly relate to that. Then, if we want to really start to tap into the ever-present higher self that's there, but we're always so caught up in the mind and the ego, and we want to come back to that. And what one of the things I find, even working with people here, is a lot of people, they don't even know what they want, so they stay complaining about what they don't have yet. But when you ask them to become clear on what is they want, it becomes a struggle, and I think that's half the battle, and why we keep defaulting back to the old mechanisms that keep us where we are. What do you suggest then to help people start to go, you know what, I want to think unlimited, I want to be prosperous in these areas, and this is how I get clarity.
Yeah. So I recommend meditation. Meditation is a powerful way for us to experience our higher self, first of all, to have the direct experience of it, and then to integrate that into our awareness, our waking life. So I suggest guided meditation. And several of my books that you see behind me, actually, the 3 books that you're seeing right now behind me, are filled with guided meditations, affirmations, mantras, and so on. But guided meditation is the easiest way, especially for people who say, oh, I can't meditate. Oh, that's impossible. Uh, Anyone could do my guided meditation because all you need to do is just follow the instructions. That's what guided meditation is. So, what I suggest is that you find a meditation in the book Prosperity Meditations or in one of my other books. Find a meditation that you want to practice and then just read it audibly onto a device, such as a computer, and then sit down comfortably. It's really important to be comfortable if you want to meditate. Sit comfortably, and then simply turn on the playback and close your eyes and go. Just follow the instructions. It'll take you step by step, moment by moment, into the deep meditative state. So that meditative state will help you to experience that unbounded, unlimited awareness. And in that state of consciousness, you can experience who you truly are. And that is your higher self. But you also mentioned something about trying to find out, you know, what your purpose is so that you'll know what to focus on to manifest in your everyday life. So I believe that it's really important for people who are working with manifestation that before they ever try to make a laundry list of things that they want to have in their life or that they want to achieve in their life, before they do that, I think the first step for them is to uh, ask spirit, ask the deity of your God of your understanding, ask your higher self, whatever, you believe in, whether it's a higher self or whether it's a deity, or ask what is wise for me to do in the first place. If we don't know what is highest wisdom for us, if we don't know what our mission is, then how can we then make the proper laundry list of things that we want to accomplish?
Yeah.
Or shopping list, I guess, is more accurate. So,
How do you then? And I'm just asking Chris because I know the challenges that come up for people listening to this, and is if we ask and we're asking something like you say, divinity, source energy, a deity, whatever that might look like for us, how do you then determine what is coming through? Because again, people confuse themselves. Was that a message? Should I be hearing that, or was that just me? Was that my thoughts? Am I making this shit up?
yeah,
There's multiple
that's a
ways.
very important question. Very, very important question, because there's 4 different places you might be receiving your messages from: the spiritual world, the mental world, the astral world, or the environmental world. And we want to be receiving messages only from the spiritual world. That's where we want to get our messages, because then we are receiving clear inner guidance. We're receiving clear messages from the still small voice within. So, one of my books, which is called um, Awaken Your Divine Intuition, this is the book where I have a 10 test system. It tests 10 tests so you can distinguish and discern between that true voice of spirit and other voices in your mind, how to test whether the messages are the real thing. And it's very important to learn how to do that if you're going to be starting to have conversations with your higher self and start to receive guidance from spirit, guidance from the inner divinity. It's really important that you recognize, who am I talking to?
Totally.
Who or what is giving me this message?
Yeah. So just to break the other three down, because obviously sort of spirit, we said we wanted the message to come through. You mentioned obviously the mind, the mental, the if it's just our thoughts going crazy. Then you mentioned the astral.
Mhm,
How would you explain the
mhm.
astral to someone? What?
So my definition of the astral plane, everybody's got their own definition. These are semantics. What I'm speaking of when I speak of the astral plane is I'm speaking of a sort of gray place, like limbo kind of place, where souls don't go into the light after death, because most souls, after they die, they go right into the light, and they go into the heaven, whatever you want to call it, heavenly realm, spiritual realm. They meet a divine being, they go into the divine light. At least people who've had near death experiences, that's what they report. Uh, happens after they leave their body. But there are some souls who, for one reason or another, don't go into that light after death. They get stuck or stranded. Uh, these are called earthbound spirits. They may be just souls who are confused and lost. There's also other beings who live in the astral world. They may be mischievous, they may be malevolent. There's all kinds of beings that we don't want to communicate with.
Yeah. And then the last
But
sorry.
of course, it would be. I'm sorry. It would be safe though for us to communicate, for example, with our deceased relatives, somebody who's in the light, who's gone into the light,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't be in the astral plane anyway. They'd be in the light. They'd be in the spiritual world.
And then the last place, of course, you mentioned was physical. So that's where the mixed messagings could be coming from.
Well, the environmental,
Yeah.
that's like peer pressure, the collective beliefs of humanity, false beliefs such as money is the root of all evil. That would be a perfect example of the collective belief system, or BS, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay. And then by having obviously a meditation practice and actually starting to apply the skills, we start to transcend that and connect to source spirit. And we understand when we're there and when we're not and how to differentiate. Would that be fair to say?
And that's very fair to say, yes.
Yeah. When just this last question on money, why then do we? Because there's such what's the word I'm looking for? Like diversity in wealth. There's some people that like are born into money. It's like they've only ever known wealth, and then there's people that are born into poverty or struggle. and some people become wealthy. And why do you think that is?
Okay, well, a lot of things make a lot of sense if you believe in reincarnation. So the beliefs that we have are not just from our womb onwards, womb that we were born into onwards. The beliefs that we have are from this life and from all past lives. So we are, you know, it is done unto you as you believe, you know. All that we are is a result of what we have thought. That's what Buddha says. And all the spiritual teachers throughout the ages have told us this. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. So if we believe that we deserve to have a lot of money, or if we believe that we need to have a lot of money, then we will. It's all based on the what you place attention on grows stronger in your life. That's the law of increase. The law of increase states that what you put your attention on and intention towards grows stronger in your life. So if you're focused on gaining wealth and making money, then that's exactly what you're going to get.
Hmm.
And if that belief carries on from one lifetime to the next lifetime, then you will be born into riches.
Interesting. You've been doing this work a long time, and I'm sure you would have seen many changes through this time. And especially the last few years, there's been a real struggle, within humanity and the world, and we've seen a lot of opinions and division. And are you optimistic in the direction we are going? Do we need to be having these struggles to reveal a greater aspect of ourselves? What are your thoughts on all of what's happening at the moment?
Yeah. Well, we create our own destiny individually, and we also create our own destiny collectively. So the collective consciousness is creating what's happening in the world at this time. And so we are creating this, and that's why it's happening. It's really pretty simple. We have an individual will, and we have the will of the collective, which determines what happens to individuals and what happens to humanity. I believe that the world is going in a more positive direction, which is hard for us to see simply because of what's going on in the Ukraine at the moment. So it's difficult for us to envision a world at peace when we're seeing mass slaughter of a population, which is horrific. But in general, if you look very carefully at the statistics from the 20th century on into right now, it's a dramatic drop in war and in deaths related to war. Uh, that's the statistics. I mean, there were 100 million people that were killed in World War One and World War Two, and you know, and there were a lot less people in the world back then than there are now. So, percentage-wise, much huger percentage of people dying in war back in the 20th century than in the 21st century.
Are you optimistic of the future, as opposed to more people?
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that was what I was trying to say was I am optimistic because I see the statistics that we're going in the direction of greater harmony. What we see yoga studios on every corner. We see people paying attention to health, being very interested in, for example, organic foods, and people more and more interested in the climate, you know, dealing with climate change and more solar and other types of energy, alternate energy, wind energy, solar energy. These things make me optimistic when I see that people are more interested in the environment and more interested in health.
Mm, beautiful. Um, just a quick question before we start to wrap things up, Susan. One is, I guess, with all your wisdom that you have and how you live your life now, I'm curious to know do you have a morning routine or a particular routine that you do these days?
No, I don't have a routine, but I do meditate. I enjoy meditation and I enjoy affirmation. So I do the things that I teach in my books, do the meditation, and I speak with spirit. I have conversations with that still small voice on a daily basis. And I actually, since somewhere in the mid 1980s, I made a decision. And the decision that I made was that I would do my best to be led by spirit on an everyday basis. In other words, that I would listen to the inner voice and do my best to follow its guidance, which, by the way, is not easy to do. But I do my best. I try my best to, I don't want to say try, I do my best to follow the inner guidance that I receive. And when I do that, miracles take place all over my life. So I have a lot of incentive to listen to that inner voice because good things happen when I do.
Beautiful. And I'm guessing with the freedom of an RV that you can kind of keep going with that a lot simpler.
Well, yeah, I mean, one nice thing about living in an RV is that you can't really accumulate a lot of things. There's no space for anything to be accumulated.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing, is it? We're actually in the middle of moving at the moment, and we like to think that we don't keep a lot, but we're surprised of how much we've accumulated in the last 3 years of living here. We're like, oh my God, there's actually a lot of stuff here. You just don't realize. So I can certainly appreciate what you're saying, Susan. Last question is, with everything we've covered on the show today, is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
Well, since you've been born into a human body, that's a tremendous opportunity because other species, other beings do not have the ability to realize their true divine nature and to attain spiritual enlightenment. So, my recommendation is that you take the time, now that you have a human body, take the time to find out about how you can uh, realize who you really are, realize your true divine nature, and attain higher consciousness.
Beautiful. And if people want to grab a copy of your book, Prosperity Meditations, or any of your other books for that matter, where would be the best place for them to go to, Susan?
Well, anywhere the books are sold, you can get my books anywhere the books are sold. I recommend that you get them from a local bookstore, simply because at this time I think it's important um, that we support our local businesses. So you can look at there's a website called IndieBound, for example, where you can purchase books from local bookstores. So I recommend that. But obviously, all my books are on Amazon and they're on Target and they're on Barnes and Noble and all of those types of places that people purchase books.
Fantastic. I'll have links to your websites below as well. And what's your website, Susan? If you could say it out loud for everyone.
Yeah, drsusan.org. Drsusan.org is one of my websites. And then I have another one, which is divinetravels.com. That's DIVINETRAVELS.com. That's plural on the travels.com. And there you can find out about my tours to sacred destinations and my conferences at sea. I do spiritual conferences at sea.
I noticed that. They look great. I did.
Yeah, well, they're
Yeah.
fun.
Well, all the links have been in the show notes for everyone. And Susan, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast today and sharing your time. And really appreciate everything that you're doing. And I have no doubt anyone that's listening right now would have gained a lot too. And I'm sure they'll be checking out more of your work. So thank you, Susan. Much appreciated.
And thank you, Guy. Thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed speaking with you
You're
today.
welcome.